Black women across the country of the United States are reclaiming their time, their rest, and their power on our own terms. And here, we're doing it God's way. Welcome to Sisters Unbothered, the place where we reject the grind, unlearn the struggle, and embrace the kind of peace that can't be shaken. I'm Coach Nikki Cates, and every week we're having real, unfiltered conversations about rest as resistance, ease as strategy, and why soft power is not just a luxury, it's our birthright. Because in a world that expects us to carry everything, choosing rest is revolutionary. So take a deep breath, sis. You don't have to earn this. Now, let's get to it. Hello, Sisters Unbothered. It's your girl and your coach, Nikki Cates. Welcome back to another episode of Sisters Unbothered, the podcast, where we are going to keep it real, rooted, and rising in purpose. Listen, I know I'm not the only one who feels like some weeks stretch us all the way out, like Laffy Taffy, okay? And this one, baby, for me, it's been a stretch. But I believe God's been speaking right in the stretch, right in the tension, and definitely in the middle of our becoming. So today's episode is for every woman who feels like she's mid-process, like she hasn't arrived yet, but she's not who she used to be either. So go ahead. Grab your tea, your journal, your pen, or if you're driving, girl, just focus on driving and take a deep breath because we're going there today. All right, so let's jump right on in. This week, what we've been talking about is the process of you've already left the station, but you haven't quite arrived at your destination yet. Now, granted, I think at our big age, we already know that success is not necessarily a destination because once you achieved a milestone and arrived at a location, there's always going to be another one to go head for, right? So we're constantly becoming in some way. So life is a process. Transformation is a process. Success is a journey. Happiness comes and goes. Joy and peace are things that you can always have in the vehicle with you if you are intentional about so. So what I think is interesting is that personally, I find it very difficult when you're in the middle of locations to still hold on to that peace and that joy and that hope that you're going to get to the other side. Sometimes it feels like you're almost like in a tunnel. And it's like, dog, when are we going to get to the other side already? So let me ask you something real quick. What you do if you're in the middle of that tunnel and you can't see light behind you or in front of you? Do you turn around and go backwards or do you keep going forward? Have you ever eaten a cake that wasn't done cooking all the way? Cornbread, because I just made cornbread the other day. Would you do that? Would you leave the salon while your hair is still processing? Or check out of the hospital in the middle of a procedure or surgery? No, you wouldn't do that, right? Now, granted, if you was in the tunnel, depending on your frame of thinking, it might make sense to you to go backwards instead of forward, but then you're not making progress. You're not getting to the next point. Because you know the process has to finish in order to get the full result, or you want to get to where you're headed to, you have to keep moving forward and let the process continue or remain on the journey. But when God starts something in you, I swear that particular process can feel so long, so slow, and so uncertain. And that's coming from someone that is still being delivered from impatience. So you probably know what I'm talking about. So today what we're talking about is the middle, We're talking about that spot right there where it's like, dog, I want to quit, but I already started. That sacred, uncomfortable space between the start and the breakthrough. That's what we're talking about. So last week we talked about reclaiming identity, how we're not defined by what we do, but by who God says we are. So this week we're going to go a little bit further with that. What does it look like to walk in that reclaimed identity when the path is still forming? Literally, sometimes it feels like you take a step and you get more of the path in front of you, just a little. Take a few more steps and then a little bit more forms. But if you stand still, you don't know where you're going and you can't see. Because hear me, breaking from the old to step into the new will cost you comfort. Sometimes the discomfort is just the not knowing. That in-between place, it might not feel holy, but I promise you, it is most definitely sacred ground. But let's talk about why. God meets us in the middle. There's a word that theologians use, liminality, that describes this. It's the space between two realities. And if you read your Bible closely, you'll see something actually quite beautiful. God doesn't always meet people at the mountaintop. He meets them in the middle, right? So think of Moses. God wasn't there when he was an Egyptian. God had met him after he ran from Egypt, before he was the leader of Israel. Jesus was born into this world as a son of man and the son of God, yes. But he did not have a direct encounter with God until his baptism. And that was in, his 30s? He was baptized before he performed a single miracle on his way to his crucifixion. Abram and Sarai, they received their promise in their old age and in the midst of their barrenness, that they would be the father and mother of nations. But my absolute favorite is Jacob when it comes to this topic, because he wrestled all night, not knowing he was wrestling his way into his destiny. So let's talk about Jacob for a minute. Jacob's story is in Genesis 32. That is where he begins to wrestle with the strange man. Now, all right, so you have Genesis 32, and you have Jacob who finds himself alone and wrestling with a man all night. Sis, the Bible says all night, like hours, okay? Now, he was already troubled about his past catching up to him because God had told him to return to his land and his relatives, which meant facing his older brother, Esau, the same one he and his mother tricked out of his birthright. So he wasn't sure if his brother was ready to square up and kill him or welcome him back into their land. However, Jacob wrestling with this man he doesn't know wasn't just a physical wrestling. It was an identity wrestle, right? He was wrestling with his identity. Why? Because he wasn't sure if he's still the same deceiver that deceived his older brother. Would he always be known for what he did when he did return, obeying what God had told him to do, which is to go back to his land and his relatives? Would he be accepted? And would he always be seen as that same type of person? I know me personally, if I think back to who I was 10 years ago, honestly, sis, I think back to who I was a year or 2 years ago, and it can be cringeworthy sometimes. Y'all tell me if y'all know what I'm talking about. You think about who you used to be, how you used to think, what you've done, and it can be cringe. It can be totally cringeworthy to think about the people that had to encounter you in that space, in that mindset, in that mind frame, in those circumstances. And it can be kind of cringeworthy. And it causes you to feel like you made such a lasting impact on them in that moment that they wouldn't ever be able to see you again. I wonder that about people that knew me when I was in the Army. Very broken, very naive, very ignorant of a lot of things, very selfish, dealing with severe depression and no idea that that's what I was dealing with. Man, the thought of the people that left my life around that time, I wonder if I was to encounter them today, would they still see me as that? It's very cringe for me to think about it, or me as a teenager even. I'm going to say I don't think I'm the only one that would feel that way, but I don't want to assume it, sis. So you think about it. How do you feel about who you used to be and where you are now? Do you wonder if people still see you the same way? This is, in fact, part of an identity crisis. And yet, after he had wrestled with this man all night, the man says to him, "Your name will no longer be Jacob. From now on, you will be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have won." Now, what Jacob didn't realize in the moment was that he was wrestling to become who he was already called to be. He was already destined and called to be the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, a key link in the covenant lineage that was promised to Abraham, and a forefather of David and Jesus Christ himself. Think about that. He had no idea that's what he was wrestling for. No idea whatsoever. And I think that in itself is beautiful. Because here he was wondering if he was still being seen as the deceiver and the trickster. And here God is now renaming him and reshaping him into a different identity, moving forward. Now, mind you, if you're familiar with the story, because Jacob wouldn't let up in his wrestle, the angel had to dislocate his hip. So he forever walked away with not just a physical anomaly, but a new name and a new identity that released him from that struggle of still wondering if he's still that same person that people may still want to see him as in his homeland. So I wonder with you, sis, have you been wrestling? Not because you failed, but because God is forming something new in you. So let's talk about this middle, this wrestle, this space between who you were and where you're going, what you're aspiring to. Like for myself, for instance, I have been trying for decades, from the time that I got pregnant with my first daughter in high school, to finish a bachelor's degree, because Dr. Nikki was ingrained into my mind that that's who I wanted to be. Not necessarily a doctor per se, like healthcare, but I always felt that I would operate in some space, liberal arts wise, right? So for a while there, actually, I had considered psychiatry because I was thinking counseling, therapy. I just knew I was called to help people, okay? And over the years that evolved. And I just never let go of that dream of Dr. Nikki. Mind you, y'all, it took me decades to finally get to this point where God's blessings made it possible for me to finish my bachelor's degree. I am officially graduating from Syracuse University next month with my bachelor's degree. It took decades. I'm starting grad school in the fall at Emory University, and yet that's still another stepping stone in the middle of this process of getting to Dr. Nikki. And then there's another step to the process that I'll have to go to from there to get my PhD. But I'm still on the journey. I'm still moving forward, and I'm still hopeful. My issue would be that in the middle of all of this, impatience can cause a lot of strain mentally, stress, unnecessarily, right? Because it's literally one foot in front of the other, one class after the next, one credit after the next, one assignment after the next. It's just staying with the process. And nothing is wasted because it's all working to get me to the next point. Same with my business. Last year, I did a whole lot. This year, I'm learning how to take what I did and make it work for the business, right? It takes patience because you want to see the results. It's just like weight loss. You start the process, and 2 weeks in, you're not seeing the results you want to see. You've only lost a quarter, an eighth of what you want to lose, right? Nowhere near the end, nowhere near the finish line. What do? Do you quit and say, oh, well, or do you stay in the middle and keep going? The middle matters, sister. The middle is not wasted. It's where the old falls off and the new begins to rise, and everything inside of you gets tested and refined in the middle. In the middle, your false beliefs are challenged. Your soul learns to trust again. Your strength is formed. Your identity is affirmed. And the most important thing of all is that you learn to trust God and allow Him to lead. It's a divine tension, but it's where the blessing is becoming. I will not see that finish line if I give up on myself and just throw my hands in the air and say, what's the point? Because I'm not doing this because I feel desperate in the fact that I need to do it. I'm doing this because it's something that I promised myself. And that's facts. So you have to settle on a peace between you and the Lord about what it is that you're aspiring to and what that process looks like. Okay? I hope this is making perfect sense for y'all, because I want to encourage you, because a lot of us are in the midst of our transformations, and maybe you've hit a milestone and now it's time to hit the next one. And it's always going to start over again, like a different project where you start the project and there's an end of the project and there's a process that happens in the middle. And I've told women often in coaching and mentoring over the years, transformation is a process. It's not always pretty. It's going to be painful at times, super uncomfortable and unpredictable. And when I'm talking about uncomfortable, let's go back to what I was talking about with the cringe-worthy moments. That's uncomfortable to think that that's how people saw you or that's how you portrayed yourself. But this is why so many people check out before full manifestation. They tap out when it gets hard. And maybe you're there too. So let me just say this to you, my sister, with all love, sincere concern, and care. Struggling doesn't always mean something's going wrong. Sometimes it means something sacred is happening. Okay? You have to be prepared in that process. Consuming fire, right? God may be purifying you. He may be preparing your environment. He may be preparing the place where you're headed. He may be doing all of that at one time, which is most likely the case. Like for myself, I spent time last year in frustration because I felt like I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see. And this year, I started shifting into that same lane, that same mindset for a while. And then it dawned on me, finally, the Holy Spirit finally got it through to me. The weight is God's protection in this matter. It's His protection as He prepares me and refines what I'm putting out into this world. To rush that process is to create disaster instead of success, and a lot of pain and discomfort. So I'd rather take the uncomfortable unpredictability of waiting on God personally, and I'm hoping that you will desire the same. So let's stop looking at the wait as failure or quitting on it, okay? You have to allow the undoing before the becoming. No matter what it is, a relationship, a journey that you're on, a goal that you're pursuing, a success that you're looking for, a certain manifestation that you're seeking, I want you to pause and I want you to ask yourself right now, where am I wrestling and what truth is God trying to reveal in this? And then I want you to write it out, journal on it, pray it through, and talk it over with a sister who holds space well. Because wrestling doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're becoming, my sister. Okay? In the middle is okay. God meets us in the middle. And we will never walk away the same. So don't tap out. Don't tap out. Sitting in the tension between what God promised and what you see, I want you to learn to hold on in this process, because this is where God is wrestling with you, not against you, with you, not against you. God is wrestling with you, not against you. Your identity is shifting. You have to be able to see yourself as that person that is receiving that manifestation. And you have to be able to manage it, steward it well when you get there. All right? Your purpose continues to deepen when you accept this process. You gain clarity, greater understanding, which again helps you to show up differently. You have to show up differently, my sister. Not to mention your strength strengthens and rises, okay? So I'm encouraging you to reflect on where you are in your becoming journey. Engage with this conversation with the Lord, with yourself, and with a community that you can trust. The Unbothered Workbook is available on the Sisters Unbothered website on Substack. And I also, if you look at this blog post on the Substack, you will see that there is also a becoming devotional that will include some scriptures and some affirmations and prayers for you for this process. I want to encourage you that you are not behind, you are not failing, you are becoming. And if you're right in the middle of it, the blessing is still on its way. Don't turn around and go back, sis. Keep moving forward. Forward only. We don't quit, we pivot. Okay? And we pivot with God's guidance, with His direction, with His grace, with His mercy, with His favor. And that's what I speak for you, my sister, that you will continue in this process, that you will not turn back, you will not quit, that you will continue to look to the hills in front of you. Look forward. Look out across the ocean, because He's there waiting for you. All right? Okay. Well, that's it for this episode. I hope that it spoke to your soul. Do me a favor and share it with a sister. Drop a review, post your reflection on socials so we can walk this thing out together. Hit me up on the Substack. Message me. I love you. I'm praying for you. And until next time, stay in the process. Stay in the middle. Stay in the becoming. You are not alone. All right, sis, that's a wrap on this episode of Sisters Unbothered. If today's conversation reminded you that you don't have to hustle for your worth, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And don't keep this to yourself. Send it to a sister who needs to hear this, girl. Let's keep this energy going. Follow me on TikTok or Fanbase at I am Nikki Cates. Also, On Substack, you can find Sisters Unbothered with Coach Nikki, and on YouTube at Nikki Cates, Sisters Unbothered, or I am Nikki Cates, for more on rest, faith, and living unbothered as Black women in America. Because choosing rest is choosing freedom, and Black women, we deserve both. Talk to you soon.